Right, so good morning, everybody. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, the digital education partner of your Toronto Zoo. And I am so excited to dive in with today's program. Now, we have done over 25 programs with the zoo over the last couple of years as they've branched into all sorts of amazing ways of showcasing their wildlife conservation and incredible staff with the public. It has been some of the most well-attended and amazing programs we've ever run, and so I'm so excited to dive in today with one near the beginning of our November. We have done over 125 broadcasts to kick off the year. Whew, it's been a little crazy. So I so appreciate you all being here, whether you're with us at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants or the zoo channels, as we continue to showcase and celebrate such amazing people and places from around the globe. Now today we're diving in with one of my favorite animals, a true icon of Canadian wildlife, the bison. So I'm going to turn it over to Sean and Mary Ellen, who are going to take us away on World Bison Day to talk all about the work they do with these incredible creatures, with ample time for questions at the end. So if you're in the chat, please do feel free to start sharing your queries immediately, and we'll take as many as we can at the end. Now, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us today, Mary Ellen, and take us away.
Hi, everybody. I am Mary Ellen, and I'm so excited to have you with me here. As you might be able to tell, we are currently in our bison exhibit, our wood bison exhibit here at the Toronto Zoo. And we're going to be learning all about these gentle giants and what makes them so exceptionally special to their habitats and why we should care about them. And I second what Jesse says here. They are also one of my favorite animals. They are a true icon here in Canada. They're getting a little bit close to us here, but I'm going to turn it over. I have one of our keepers here who actually helps look after them. So we're going to learn a little bit more about our bison here at the Toronto Zoo specifically. And then I'm also going to teach you a little bit about why they're important and different ways that they help their environment and how we care for them here at the zoo as well. Alrighty, let's turn it over. Hi guys, my name is Natalie. I'm one of the zookeepers here, and I'm actually very new to this area. So I'm still getting to know this herd of bison, and I'm growing to love them. I really enjoy working with them. We have 18 girls here, and they range in ages from 4 to about 24 years old. So we've got some young girls and some older girls, and then we have a herd of 5 males as well. So they're kept separated because we don't want them to be breeding here. They're a part of a really important reproductive study here at the Toronto Zoo. So they're kept separated between the herd of females and the herd of males. So now we're here with our 18 females here, and we do all kinds of different training with them every day so that they can voluntarily kind of come through the chute system. So it's just like a narrow area that they can come through. We can get up nice and close and do ultrasounds, check them for pregnancies. Yeah, it's just a great study to be a part of. So I can turn it back to Mary if she has anything else. Of course, we have lots more to share. So I'm going to let Sean here kind of get a little bit closer to some of our bison as he gets up close. And we're just going to take in how absolutely massive they truly are. This is an incredible species. There's 2 different types of bison in the world. There's plains bison and wood bison. These are the wood bison. And we can tell this because they are actually a little bit different than the other type of bison. These guys are much bigger. So the males in this species can get to be about 1,800 pounds, which is like the weight of 2 pianos. That is absolutely incredible. The girls here are on the slightly smaller side, but honestly, I think if we played tug of war or any kind of match like that, it would take all 4 of us out here in the field to even stand a fighting chance at coming close to beating them in any sort of match. They are quite an impressive species, but that's what makes them so amazing at living here in Canada. As we all know, in Canada, it can get pretty cold. It's a good running joke across the world for us. And they are specially designed to withstand that. If you take a look at them here, you can see they're covered in that nice thick fur. They're going to grow that fur in all winter long, keep them so nice and cozy. People actually think when you see wild animals with snow on top of them, that they're cold and that something's wrong and, we should put blankets on them or bring them inside. But if you actually see snow on top of them, that means their body is doing what it's supposed to do. It's keeping them warm and insulated. Just like, I'll let Sean come back on me for a second here, your coat. So if you're wearing a winter coat and you have snow over top of you, that means your body is keeping your heat inside and keeping the cold outside. So if you come to the zoo or any zoo near you and you see bison or outdoor animals with snow on top of them, it actually means they're probably warm on the inside of their bodies, which is really cool. Now, not just their thick fur, they do also have a pretty nice layer of fat. Right now they are eating. You might have been seeing some orange things go flying in the camera screen. There's one now. Those are actually oranges. So they are a type of herbivore. And they're eating lots of veggies and fruit. They also have some celery on the ground. And of course, they have their big paddock to graze in all day if they choose. Now, these animals do eat lots of hay as well. But like we were just mentioning, we do lots of research with them, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a second. But to help with that, we're going to be offering them their hay a little bit later in the day today to make sure that we can help kind of bring them all together. And assist with kind of bringing the group together, because having 18, 2,000-pound animals is a lot to deal with sometimes.
And they like to move as a herd.
Yes, they are very much a herd animal. You are correct. They love to stay and live together. Now, something that's really cool, we've talked a lot about their size, and that is actually what makes them so incredible for their habitat. They are so big, and they have 4 little tiny feet. There's a lot of weight on each foot. So as they move around, they actually kind of dig and put little holes into the ground, almost like little aeration as they dig around for their food. And that helps for plant growth. So after the herd of bison, like we just mentioned, they move as a giant group together. Once they've all moved past an area, that area, we see new regrowth in it, which is absolutely incredible. They're able to kind of help replant their plains or their wooden area. They also assist because of their fur. So I'm interested to see if anybody right now, you can put it in the chat as well. Jesse, you can let me know if anybody gives any examples here in a second. But does anybody know what a pollinator is, or can anyone answer or give me an example of a pollinator?
All right, turning it over to chat. Again, we've got lots of folks joining us in chat. Actually, a quick note for Sean in terms of filming while we're waiting for the pollinator question. Try and make sure the camera's tilted down so it doesn't catch the sun, because it makes the bison quite a bit brighter when the sun isn't in. It sort of automatically captures that. So just a note. But yes, if anyone wants to... Perfect. Thanks, guys. Yeah, there we go. They're way better now. Pollinators, a bee. Miss Collins' class is chiming in. Bees are just pouring in. Everyone, that's where their mind goes. Bees all galore. There we go. No one else has any other options. Bees are it, guys.
Bees are it. Oh, I hope we can get a little bit more creative than that, because what if I told you that bison could be considered a pollinator as well? That might blow your mind.
Blows my mind. I'm pretty excited. Bats we've got now, finally. Butterflies. There we go. No one's jumping on the bison train yet, though. You'll have to explain a little more, I think.
That's okay. I can definitely do that. So we see a lot of animals who are very woolly and furry like bison. They get itchy just like we do. And for you and I, when we have an itch, we can use our hands and scratch ourselves all over our body. Our bison here, they can't really do the same. So what they use is all across the exhibit. You're going to see logs and trees actually in the far side over there. It might be a little hard to see with the way the lighting is right now, but we actually have a brush from a car wash. So something that would clean your car, we have here for the bison to rub on. And in the wild, they don't have access to a car brush. So what they would do is find a nice big old tree nearby, rub up on it. And when they do that, they get some of the pollen and seeds all over their body and their coat. So if you've ever gone outside and maybe come back in with burrs all over you, same kind of concept as the bison here. And by doing that, and they move as a herd all over the land, they're able to drop those seeds later on and help with replantation of their forest. Now, another way that they help out, it's a little bit more of a stinky way. They see if anybody can guess in the comments. But it actually is something that comes out of our bison. So what do you think? What's their last way they help out their habitat?
Miss Collins is killing it. They poo and pass seed. I think that's it. Manure, you got it all. All our teachers know what's going on.
There we go. We got a quick group today. I love it. Yes, exactly. Their droppings or fecal droppings really help out their habitat. And that's because they're super nutritional. They're eating a lot of vegetation and they're also eating it in one location. Then they walk and go to the bathroom in a different location. So it's a traveling assist as well. They're moving those plants around, moving that nutrition all around. And they're also leaving behind those nice little bundles for all the other animals. So other things can go in and eat maybe the parts of their food that was undigested. Insects love to go in there, and they're also fertilizing the ground, which is amazing for replant growth as well. So you see, when we lose bison, we actually lose quite a bit of their habitats as well. Oh yeah, we've got a couple of them getting a little closer here to us. We can get some nice up close with them here. We're gonna bring out some more celery to try and keep them at bay from us here. Like I said, they're pretty big and they don't mean to, but just because they are so large and in charge, they could harm us just by getting a little bit too close. Now you might be noticing as well, some of them are a little bit fresh, as we'd call it. And this has to do for two main reasons. One, it's a little bit colder. I don't know if anybody else during the day, you're not as hot in the summer. You have a little bit more energy midday and you feel like you can do a little bit more. That's one of the reasons why they're fresh. But Natalie actually talked about another one already, and that is our reproductive research with them. So they're actually feeling a little hormonally fresh as well. And they've got some juices flowing and they are ready for their day. So what's really incredible is, well, not this part, but many years ago, bison were actually considered to be critically endangered, which means there's not a lot left of them here on Earth. It was actually just under 1,000 or under 1,000 total in the world, which is a very small number. And through lots of partnerships from the Toronto Zoo, other organizations out there, other zoos, Parks Canada, things like that, we have brought these amazing creatures back and actually had successful reintroductions back into the wild, which is when you take animals born in captivity and you're able to bring them back into their wild spaces. And again, we just learned that when they go back to their wild spaces, they're helping their habitat even more. Now, something we do here, we are talking about our roundups and our catch-ups. So we're actually a little bit early for National Bison Day. Technically, it's on Saturday. And, there's no school on Saturday. Woohoo! So we would have done it on Friday, which is tomorrow usually. But tomorrow, our bison have a doctor's appointment. So if we turn over to the back, I don't know if you'll be able to see it with the sun. We'll give it a quick try here. But way in the back over there, there's our chute system and our back holding for the bison. So tomorrow morning, they're all going to be gathered up. Keepers, how easy is that going to be to bring them all together as the herd?
It depends. It can vary for sure. So certain days, kind of if the leaders of the herd go right through it, then everybody else is going to follow nicely behind. But if one of the kind of leaders of the herd is a little suspicious, maybe she doesn't feel like going in that day, she's going to hold everybody up. So it's amazing how they really do kind of stick together. And if one feels like a little off, maybe they don't want to go in that day, then they're all going to kind of follow her. So
it makes it a little bit more challenging.
But they do, when they do go into the back area there, they get lots of treats and we try to make it really rewarding. And we do it every day as well, so that it just becomes a part of their daily routine, and it's nothing out of the norm for them. So just tomorrow, they're going to have the vet team here. So
that's perfect.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So we actually touched on some good points there. Is we try and make it a fun experience for them. We're not able to communicate with them the same ways that we can communicate with each other, and so mainly we do it as positive reinforcement here at the zoo. So when we have them in the back, maybe they're a little unsure and they're not sure what's happening. If we reward them with food that they really like, they think, oh, okay, this is cool. I'm happy. We're having a good time now, despite that they're going to the doctors pretty much. But that's okay. We give them lots of food as a reward. And when they're done, they get to come back out here with the rest of their friends and family. But when they're in the back, we're actually doing some really important research on them. So we're checking urine, blood, fecal samples, even hair on a lot of our animals as well get checked. And we're looking for different spikes in hormones. And from this, we can tell if an animal's ready to be pregnant or maybe is pregnant. And this is really important for bison research to be able to help with those reintroduction programs. We want to make sure that we can have as many successful breedings and offspring as possible. And there's a lot of factors that can affect that. Jesse, I don't know if you recall, but about 10 or 11 months ago, we were actually in this very spot with some of our other keeper staff, as well as a few of our other reproduction specialists. Do you recall that meeting we had here? Or that broadcast?
Not only do I recall it, I put it in the chat for all our Facebook and YouTube viewers. It's a great follow-up. There's so much detail in that program, so if people want to check that out as a supplement to this, they can do so really readily.
Exactly. That is the perfect place to check it out. So there we go into a lot more detail about our reproductive programs there, because when we were here 10 months ago filming again, they had just gone through a whole treatment of hormones, artificial insemination, to try and see if we could have any successful pregnancies from that. We went through a whole host of them just a few months ago, and they're kind of going through that again now. But there's lots of factors. So stress can be a big factor. Disease can be a big one. So not only do our keepers have to work really hard to keep our bison herd calm and happy, but our veterinary and our nutrition staff have to work as well to make sure that everyone in the population is as healthy as can be, because these can have major effects on if they're able to become pregnant or not. And like I said, I just named several different layers of our team there. So we have our keepers, we have our nutritional staff. So even though our keeper here is throwing out the celery, somebody packed it up this morning and delivered it to the area for them. We have our reproduction staff who always love to help out. They come and make sure that our animals are doing well. They do all the studying in the lab. And we also have our vet teams. And then there's people like myself and Sean who get to share all this incredible work and collaboration with other people in the world, with viewers like yourself. And that's honestly one of my favorite parts of my job. We can see the bisons are getting a little closer here. So I'm actually going to let Sean film the bison for a second, so my back's not to them anymore. But we'll keep talking here just to make sure we all stay safe and happy out here in the bison paddock. Now, people always like to ask us how you get jobs here at the Toronto Zoo. And one of my favorite things to share during these broadcasts, because I know we're talking to school kids, is that there are so many different jobs that you can have at the Toronto Zoo or zoos in general. I just listed off a few there, but we even have custodial teams. We have maintenance teams. We drove in on a truck, so we need to have people who are able to fix our trucks and vehicles, our fleet of cars here, as we call them. So there's so many opportunities. If you're passionate about animals and conservation, there's always a way to get involved. All right, that was the main part of our presentation there. So we're going to throw it back to you, Jesse, for a minute and see if we have any questions we can answer in the chat.
Fantastic, Mary Ellen, that was great. And by the way, I think for all our future broadcasts, like irrespective of topic, we should have someone throwing celery over the shoulder of the speaker, because I think it added a lot to it. So thank you for that. Folks, we've got so many people joining in across Canada, the US, and beyond on Facebook and YouTube. If you guys want to share questions in the chat, great. We've also got a bunch of live classes with us today from across North America. So while our live classes put their thinking caps on, I'm going to take one from one of our groups here on YouTube. Miss Green's class, Ibrahim wants to know the difference between bison and buffalo and how fast they can run.
Oh, okay. So I'll take the how fast they can run part first. I always like to say, now I'm not particularly a fast human being. I don't know if anybody else in the field right now is super quick. And you might be faster than me. In fact, probably all of you on this call are faster than me. But I like to say that pretty much every animal in the world could outrun a human in a sprint. So they are incredibly fast. They can actually run faster when they're going at their full sprint than you would drive in a car around your neighborhood. So they are quite quick when they want to be. Now, they can't keep that up for a very long time. So if you do ever want to race or run against an animal, I always recommend you do a marathon. Humans can pretty much outrun any animal in a full marathon. But a fast little quick sprint, we would stand no chance.
And when they run as a herd too, it's pretty amazing because you can almost feel like the ground shake. They're all trampling together at once. So even though, yeah, they might start to slow down, it still is quite a force.
Yes.
At anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't be just racing one bison here. You'd be racing all 18 of them. And I don't think that would go over very well. I think a tortoise maybe is the only one that we could successfully outrun in a sprint.
Perfect. We'll have a
part
podcast on that later, actually, if you want to do the tortoise thing. But yes, the difference between bison and buffalo.
Yes, the difference between bison and buffalo here is more about where they kind of live in the world. So it's a very similar debate between reindeer and caribou, as they are often used interchangeably by general public. And, you know, from the outside perspective, it's kind of one of those things that is usually just kind of let go. And, you know, we're okay with the interchanging of them, but they are different animals. And it's usually based on where they're from in the world. So in North America is where we have bison. In other areas of the world is where you might find buffalo.
Yeah. The one note for that, often in a lot of historical documents, they were called buffalo in North America, but they are bison. So bison are unique to North America. You never call something with big horns in Africa a bison. They're called buffalo over there. Here, you sometimes have interchangeability, but bison is the one to go with. So I'm glad we got that
Exactly.
question. All right, Miss Collins' class, grade 5's joining us in New York. If you guys want to kick us off with a live question, we're good to go.
All right, Nick, come on up. Ask what you were asking about the horns.
Have a bison harmed someone with their horns?
Ooh, good question. Could bison harm someone with their horns? Keepers, do you want to take that away for us?
Sure, they definitely could. And so we're being very careful with them. We have the truck right behind us. So we always have an escape route with them. So we're keeping an eye on them. We're giving them food, just letting them know that we're not here to harm them or mess with them. They're just getting their snacks. But yeah, we definitely are careful. And we're reading their body language as well. So me and Jen, the other zookeeper here, we're paying close attention to these guys. And yeah, they're huge, massive animals. So we have to be careful around them for sure. And you can see some of the horns are a little different. Some have much sharper horns than others. And that's usually with age. A lot of the younger ones will have sharper horns, and they will kind of sharpen them a bit too. We're just going to move a little bit closer to the truck right now. But yeah, they definitely could. And I've seen a lot of videos, unfortunately, people that travel kind of through Alberta and stuff, they will get out of their vehicles and get really close to these guys. These guys know us. They know that we feed them. But some of the wild bison in the plains, they don't know what people are about, and they might take them as a threat, especially if they have babies or something. So yeah, some people unfortunately do, like tourists will get out of their vehicles and get really close trying to get a selfie or something. And I've seen some pretty scary incidences there, but nothing here at the zoo. And that's because we have a relationship with these animals. They know us. But yeah, we still are always careful.
Fantastic. And you guys have been demonstrating that throughout the entire broadcast. It's really important to note whether something's a carnivore or an herbivore. Anywhere you go in the world, respect animals, especially large animals that could potentially cause you harm. Same deal with whales, same deal with elephants. It's something that we've covered in a lot of broadcasts with you guys, so I'm glad we got that message in. All right, let's head to Miss Langer's class, 3-4s in Coburg, Ontario. Come on in, guys. Take us away.
Introduce yourself. Say hello,
Hi, I'm Ariana from Miss Laner's grade 3-4 class, and I wanted to know if the hump on their back is because they're associated with camels, or is it because of something else?
Oh, great question, Ariana. Hello. That is awesome. I also love that you mentioned camels because they are truly my favorite animal. If you don't know anything about camels, I encourage you to go look them up. They are an incredible species. Great question about the hump on their back. So right now we're looking at the one right in front of us. You can see that their hump's pretty big, but look at the size of their head. They have an incredibly large head, and it is pretty heavy. So that hump on their back is actually there to help support their head because it is so large. And in the winter months, unlike a lot of hooved animals, like horses and caribou, who will dig through the snow with their feet to get to the grasses and foliage underneath, bison will use their heads. They go full force into everything they do. They're kind of like a snow plow, but with their face. And so they use those muscles in their back to help support their head and give them that oomph and that power when they move.
Awesome. Very cool. We actually got that question a few times in the chat as well. And I also think our next broadcast on bison should be titled A Snowplow with Their Face. We're going to take a question from your Facebook channel now. Patty wants to know, do we have many bison in Canada? And I'm going to head to Maniwaki next for a question live. But how many bison in the country?
in the country, let me give that a quick thought here. So we have 18 here, so we're starting at a good base number. We have a couple bulls as well, our males. I believe there's close to around 11,000. That was, I believe, the last number that Parks Canada released as terms of wild population. So we're doing okay with them. They have been reduced from being critically endangered. They're lower down on the list now. So their populations are starting to come back, but it's about reintroducing them into areas where they're totally gone. So although there's a couple thousand of them across Canada, there's still many habitats where you won't find any bison whatsoever. So until we can fill all of those, I'm going to say we don't have enough bison in Canada.
Bison's actually one of the most interesting conservation stories in the world, both from a cultural and ecosystem lens. I mean, bison used to number in the millions across North America, and we wiped them out to a point where they were basically extinct, and they've actually been a huge success story. So now we are raising them in Alberta. We talked about that. They've been reintroduced to parks in the U.S. and Saskatchewan and more. Banff National Park, we featured programs on that. So it's a slow but steady improvement, but a long way to go to get back where we want to be. So I'm really glad we got that question. Thanks, guys.
Exactly.
All right, Manawaki, grade 3s, Miss Greaves' class, come on in. Joining us in Quebec today. You're good to go.
Hello.
Hello.
Go ahead.
What are bison's enemies?
Ooh, what are their enemies? That's a good question. So bison, I mean, they're pretty big, so there's not a whole lot that bison have to worry about. But like Jesse was just saying, humans might be probably their biggest enemy, unfortunately. We wiped them out almost to full extinction, and that's from fur trade, habitat loss, and consumption of them as well. So we did quite a bit of damage for them. If you take humans out of the equation, though, so you're not considering us, I'd say wolves could be some of their big ones. But these females here, they don't have a whole lot to worry about. It's the baby bison that have a little bit more to worry about. They're on the smaller side, as you could imagine, being babies. And they can be hunted by packs of wolves. Or if a bison's getting a little bit older, maybe they're sick or already injured, those are the ones that have a little bit more to worry about. But once you reach, probably about the 1,500-pound mark in the world, there's not a whole lot that can stop you.
Yeah,
That's a great point. I love the nuance, guys. All right, Miss Mac, I'm going to come to you guys live in a minute. Miss K, if you want to take questions in the chat, please do. We're going to take a few questions from our online viewers right now. So Miss Pandala's class, they're joining us in lovely Austin, Texas, grade 1s. They want to know a whole bunch of questions. What's the biggest and smallest bison you have at the zoo? Our superlative question.
The biggest and smallest.
Biggest would be the boys. They can weigh like up to 1,800, 2,000 pounds. And then we have about 5 young females in here. We don't have weights on them. Maybe someday we can incorporate that into their shoot training. But you can tell they're kind of like this one up here looks a little smaller in the middle there. They just don't have quite as pronounced of a hump. They're a little smaller in their body, and their face, I feel, looks a little smaller. So they're close to 1,000 pounds, and there are smaller guys.
That's a huge difference, though. And again, I really do encourage, if people want to see some of the science behind what they do with the bison, check out that other recording I put in the broadcast link. It's really, really neat. And I will say, too, it's interesting getting this perspective virtually. Having been to the Toronto Zoo myself many times, bison are huge in person. If you've ever been this close to a bison, I mean, it looks pretty casual now. These are gigantic animals, which is why, again, that they're being so careful to be diligent around them today. So great question, guys. All right, Christopher wants to know on YouTube, do bison live outside in the winter at the zoo?
They do. What a great question. So we try and keep all of our animals here at the Toronto Zoo as wild as possible, and that means matching their habitats and what they'd be used to in the wild. So bison are a Canadian species, or our North American species, I'll say. And that means they are built for the cold. They can handle the heat. Personally, I'm from Canada as well, and I don't really care too much for the heat, so I can't blame them for that. But we have lots of ways to help keep them warm if needed. So they can, huddle together. They grow in that thick fur. They have that nice thick layer of fat, and they always have access to food. So they're never hungry here, and they're able to survive those nice cold nights.
It's worth noting, too, so we get this question a lot when we have zoo programs about winter versus summer habitats, that the bison here in Toronto are in much better condition than bison would be in the wild in northern Alberta, where the winters are a little bit more severe than even we get. And speaking of Alberta, let's head to Miss Max, 4-5s, joining us in Lethbridge today. If you guys want to unmute your mic, you are good to go. Hi, guys.
So what makes like the bison the alpha? Or like, is it the oldest bison or is it the female or what is it?
Great question.
Very good question.
Well, I'm not totally sure how their dynamics work, but there is a hierarchy. Our guys, I wouldn't say it's the oldest. I mean, in Bison 2 with our males, we for sure saw it this year. We actually introduced two groups of males together, and we know who the alpha is there, and they fought it out to establish who it was. So I imagine the girls would have done that way long ago. But it varies. One of our Bison who is a little older, she's probably one of the more alphas of the crowd, but she doesn't lead them into the chute, and she always stays out here on her own and is very sassy. And one of the younger ones is kind of in her like little crew. And then they kind of vary throughout. I don't know who I'd say would be right in charge right now, but you can definitely see them like tussling here and there.
Yeah, it's usually temperament, strength, confidence, all kinds of different factors. And it can change too throughout the year as they kind of wrestle and fight through it. And it can change, but
yeah. Awesome, guys. I actually just got up a YouTube link of a BBC Earth episode of Yellowstone bison fighting. It's one of the most spectacular kinds of fight in the entire animal kingdom. So I will share that for everyone who's tuning in live if you want to check that out as a nice supplement to this program. Guys, we're going to dive in with a second round of questions. Mary Ellen, you've done a really nice job. This is so great. We have tons of time for extra queries today. And so Miss Green's class, they have another question. Sophia wants to know, a great question, how long it takes for plants to grow after bison poop them out. So we're talking about them as pollinators and helping grow the ecosystem. Do we have a measure on that or what?
That's a good question. I think it would depend on the type of plant specifically. But for things in the wild, it tends to be a little bit more on a long-term scale, you know? For us in human world, things kind of happen immediately or within hours or days of when we want it to happen. But in the wild, it can take a whole season. So like we were saying here in Toronto, our winters aren't as bad, but the further you go north, the longer and colder a winter month gets, and not a whole lot grows in the winter. Things kind of go dormant or go through a hibernation like a lot of plants do. So it would take probably till the next season or so for a plant to be established. So this would happen over several years. So within your lifetime, if you were looking at an area, you would see tremendous growth, but it would take several years for that to take place.
Yeah. I'm really glad we got that question in today, guys. All right, Miss Collins' class, I'm going to come to you guys live next. I wanted to share one more quick one from YouTube while we're waiting. So Tammy wants to know, do any of them have names? It's our like classic zoo question.
Yes, they do have names. And so while we're just figuring out which one is which here, because the keepers are definitely the ones who are able to tell them apart. I can see beautiful bison here, but I don't know them as well as they do. But while we're waiting on it, I'll let you all in a secret really quickly. You can actually help name some of the animals here at the zoo. So when we have a new baby born, we actually put it up to a public vote. So if you're not already, be sure to follow our Toronto Zoo Facebook, Instagram, all of our social medias. We even have a TikTok account now. It's pretty cute. But follow us on all of those. Head over to our website. And when a new baby has been born, you can actually vote on their name, which is pretty fun. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jen here. She's going to have a couple names for us.
All right. Although I cannot tell the bison apart super well, just by looking at them, we do have a couple that we can tell, and always they have ear tags in them. And we have a handy binder that tells us who has which ear tags, or if a horn is broken, or just other kind of features that you might be able to pick out. So we've got a whole binder, and it tells us their names. So like Terry and Sherry and Jen and Amy. A lot of these are named after keepers from the past that have worked here. But our youngest girls, they're from Quebec, so they're all named French names. So Folly, Fleur, Coco Chanel, Pauline, after our vet. Bisou and Celine Dion.
I
love it.
hope Coco Chanel the camera. That's the greatest name you guys have. The zoo names are the best thing ever, and I really do. If you guys want to check out the Toronto Zoo on all social media platforms, amazing stuff there. A lot of our classes in the past have participated in those naming games, so that's a lot of fun. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. I love those. Miss Collins' class, come on back in and take us away.
Say who you are.
My name is Berta, and I was wondering if why oranges? like, it doesn't seem like that'd be something that would grow in their natural habitat, really.
What a great question. So you're right. It's not something that would normally, be something that they come across in their natural habitat. Same thing with celery. So they've left some of it on the ground here for us. So we'll take a look. But you can see that they actually eat the entire thing. So rind and all, they've gone through and just kind of bitten into it. And it got a little dirty, but I'm sure that that'll be eaten up at some point today. They don't care about the dirt at all. Same thing, they eat the whole celery, all of it at once. But there's actually a really cool process that goes into feeding our animals at the zoo. We have a whole nutrition team, and they work really hard to prepare it all. So animals, based on the type of animal they are, the age, their sex, how they're doing health-wise, all sorts of things get taken into consideration for their diets to be prepared for them. And honestly, it can be kind of a form of enrichment for them. They may not have oranges out in the wild, so it's an interesting food. We know it's not going to hurt them. They might enjoy it. They've eaten most of them out here. So why not give it to them, give them a little special treat, and it makes their brain think. It's not something that they'd naturally come across. It's a new food for them. Just like when you're a baby and you're trying new foods for the first time, it helps your developmental strategies in life and figuring out what you like or don't like. Same thing for our bison herd here and all the animals at the zoo. Then our keepers take this information back to our nutrition team and say, you know what? They didn't like them this year. And we skip them for a little while. Maybe we try a little bit later, reintroduce them. Every once in a while also, grocery stores near us will donate large amounts of produce to us, which we absolutely adore. That is how we get sometimes 160 watermelons all at once, which is amazing, but you have to kind of use them right away. You can't really save them that well. We've also had like bananas or papaya, things like that donated. And any animal who can eat it, we know it's not going to harm them. We give them a chance to try it, see if they like it, because we don't want that food to go to waste. Great question, though.
Yeah.
These guys are
fantastic.
known as the garbage can herd of
Yes,
the zoo.
the garbage can herd.
Boys are picky. The girls will eat almost anything, although they weren't like super into the guava that they tried.
Okay. No guava. So grocery stores, donate other fruits and vegetables if you can. Guava is not approved. Actually, I really want to harp on something for just a quick second with everyone joining us live. They talked about the amazing work that they do to make sure that the animals there have a healthy diet, have the utmost standards of healthcare. And something I always like to showcase in zoo programs is CAZA or AZA accreditation. So what you can do is when you go to a zoo or aquarium throughout the world, look for these certifications, because what it means is that the facility is at the highest standard of animal care. It means they have people like our amazing staff that you've been hearing from all day that take care of the animals to their utmost and make sure they're happy and healthy. So make sure you choose those places when you go to zoos and aquaria, and you'll make a really big difference for conservation and making sure that animals are always well cared for. Great job, guys. All right, Miss Langer's class, come on in Coburg and take us away. My God.
Hi, my name is Ella, and how are the bisons connected to our Indigenous communities?
That is a wonderful question, Ella. Thank you so much for that. So you are correct. Bison have been known historically and are still today very connected to Indigenous peoples, very connected to the land and a lot of their traditions and things like that. For a long time, when we were talking earlier, Jesse was saying that bison used to be all over North America. There were so many of them just roaming all around. They were a main source of food for a lot of the First Nations peoples who lived here. Also clothing. They found it, every part of the bison was useful. Even the horns that we were talking about earlier can be used for things like utensils or for hunting or using them to make other items. The hide or the skin of a bison can be worn. The fur keeps everyone really warm. So they were an incredible species that helped keep Indigenous peoples alive and really benefited from them. And in turn, the Indigenous peoples were very appreciative of the bison and things like that as well. There's many sacred animals out there, and that's one thing we do try and work on here at the Toronto Zoo as well, making sure that we show those connections. If you head over to our Facebook, our social media, our website as well, we have a little bit more information about them and how they're connected to the land as well. What a great question.
Yeah, beautiful question, guys. The Toronto Zoo has some really great resources, and a place that I had the chance to visit earlier this year in Saskatchewan, the Wanuskewin Heritage Park, really talks about bison's connection to Indigenous peoples, their importance, their reintroduction on the Heritage Park lands. So Saskatchewan and Alberta have a really, really rich history of this that I encourage people to check out when they're done the broadcast as well. Time flies and you're having fun, people. We've got time for 3 more questions. So I'm going to take one quick one from YouTube and then to head to Maniwaki and Miss Mac's class to wrap us up. Miss Augusta's grade 6 class wants to know, how many bison has the Toronto Zoo had over its entire history? Good question, guys.
Whoa, that is some quick mental math we're gonna have to do there. So the Toronto Zoo has been open. I believe we're celebrating our 47th or 48th birthday in 2022. So in that time, bison have been here, I believe, for almost that entire time. We're currently in the Canadian domain of the Toronto Zoo. So I feel like it'd be, not as good if we didn't have the Canadian species here way back in the beginning. None of us currently, though, in this paddock, the humans at least, have been here at the zoo that entire time. I've only been here for the last 6 years. They've been here the whole time I have. So we have 18 females now. How many males do we have?
5.
We have 5 males currently. I would say between all of our babies, so there's also an airplane going over top of us right now. Between all of our babies and maybe moving bison here and there, our ones who are a little bit older, I would guess that we've probably had around 50 or so bison in the Toronto Zoo's history.
Okay, we're going to hold you to that. No, great question, guys. It is sometimes hard to know in terms of animals over a long period of time, but I'm really glad we got that question, so thanks to our Toronto class. All right, Maniwaki, come on back in, and Miss Mac and Lethbridge will wrap up with you guys in just a minute. Just unmute your mic in Maniwaki.
All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How long can female or males live to?
It's around 10 to 15 years in the wild, but of course in captivity, we always do a little better just because we can give them health care. We give them all the food that they'd ever want. So here they could potentially even live up to like 30. Like we've got a couple that are at 24 now. So they're really getting up there in age. But that's not to say like they still have old age problems. They can still get arthritis in their joints. And if their quality of life isn't very good, then they probably won't make it quite that long. But we keep an eye on them all the time just to keep them safe where they should be. And if one makes it to 30, sweet. Maybe we'll have a record in the future.
Fantastic. I'm surprised it took that long to get that question in, so thanks to that student. And again, I love that you guys noted that they can live longer in captivity than they do in the wild. This is something that a lot of people wonder about zoos in aquaria, and I really like to harp on the fact that with dedicated care, some of these animals can live really long, happy, and healthy lives, which is fantastic. So thanks to Maniwaki. Miss Mac's class, come on in, unmute that mic, and you guys can wrap us up with one more question.
So our question is a quick 2-parter.
How long can a female be pregnant?
So how long can a female be pregnant for?
And how long do the babies stay with their moms?
And how long do the babies stay with their moms?
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
It's about 9 months for being pregnant. So hopefully if our artificial insemination goes well, we should have them kind of late spring, early summer. And they stay with their mom. I can't say for sure. It would be a couple years. They're sexually mature after 2 to 3, so probably around then is when they would move. But then again, they live in a herd, so it depends where they are in the wild. They might just be hanging out with their mom for a long time too.
Fantastic 2-part question, guys. That was great. I know we could go all day with questions. I really do encourage you, check out that other bison broadcast on our YouTube channel. Go to thetorontozoo.com. Let me bring that up for you guys really quick to check out all the amazing stuff they're doing, and check them out at the Toronto Zoo on all the social media platforms to be excited going forward. Mary Ellen and team, this was so great. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And as you know, what we're going to do is bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. So Miss Langer, Maniwaki, Miss... Thank you so much.